And hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Flashback Comics. This is Troy David Phillips, here at manager at Flashback Comics, and today I'm going to broaden your understanding of Marvel's cosmic, galactic scope and scale. Now, you're probably excited for the upcoming sequel to the Guardians of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And you're probably very familiar by now with the characters of Star-Lord and Gamora, Rocket Raccoon, Groot, Drax the Destroyer. That's the Guardians of the Galaxy right now. The question I'm going to answer for you is, who were the Guardians of the Galaxy? Imagine that you are on a space journey from the planet Earth in the 20th century to Alpha Centauri, a 1,000-year journey. Well, along the way, you are released from suspended animation, you develop psychic abilities, you flirt with madness and insanity, you recover yourself, and you land, only to find that there are human beings on Alpha Centauri ahead of you. What happened? On your space journey, humans discovered faster than light travel, and they got there ahead of you, and they gave you a hero's welcome, but it's been 1,000 years. Everyone that you knew and loved, every institution that ever existed in your life is gone. A millennium has passed by. And this is the life of Major Vance Astrovic, Vance Astro. Vance Astro would go on to join Charlie 27 from the Jupiter colony, and Martinex from the Pluto colony, and Yondu Udanta from Alpha Centauri. Along the way, they would pick up Nicolette Gold from the Mercury colony, and they would eventually free the planet Earth of the 30th century from the Brotherhood of the Badoon, a reptilian race that had conquered the planet in the intervening centuries. That is who the Guardians of the Galaxy were when they were first introduced in 1968. Arnold Drake and Gene Colan, the original four characters, and then later in the pages of Marvel Presents, we would get Nicolette Gold. In the pages of the Defenders, we would have the Arcturian mutant Starhawk. Starhawk was a male-female composite. They shared an existence, transferring back and forth, but eventually these two characters were separated, and that expanded the membership of the Guardians by an extra person. The Guardians enjoyed a brief time in the pages of Marvel Comics, Marvel Presents, and then made guest appearances in the Defenders, in the Avengers, during the Korvac saga. Most of the adventures that we saw of the Guardians took place in the 20th century. They were traveling back in time, helping to set events in their proper course and motion, preventing Korvac from changing time, preventing Korvac from conquering all known space. And then we just didn't see the Guardians for a long time. Well, that's kind of a shame. Aside from miscellaneous guest appearances in places like Marvel 2-in-1 with The Thing, the Guardians just sort of faded into obscurity until the early 1990s when writer-artist Jim Valentino brought them back. Now, the Jim Valentino series was vibrant and exciting. We got to see the Guardians in their native 31st century environment. We are moving forward here, so the 20th century becomes the 21st, the 30th century becomes the 31st. The Guardians would encounter surviving characters from the previous millennia, like Firelord, former Herald of Galactus, who is immortal and happened to have lived for so long. We would pick up characters like Hollywood, who is actually Wonder Man, also immortal. We would meet the Stark, an alien race who had reverse-engineered Tony Stark Iron Man technology and had redesigned their entire planetary culture around Tony Stark and Iron Man's armament and armor. The Stark would turn into galactic marauding entities, but the Guardians would set them back on their heels. The Guardians would travel to the planet Haven, where they would encounter the descendants of the mutants who had left Earth under the leadership of Magneto, and Wolverine was along for the ride in that. Well, these mutants established descendants, and those descendants were eventually led by Rancor and her group of elite mutants. We would also meet the Spirit of Vengeance. The Ghost Rider, you and I know Ghost Rider, well, the Spirit of Vengeance travels to other planets as well. The Phoenix Force traveled to other planets as well. We would see Jim Starlin's Church of the Universal Truth. expanded greatly. We would meet the protege, a character grown from the legacy of Adam Warlock. We would add to the ranks of the Guardians with the shape-changing Skrull replica. We would meet Talon, descendant of the Inhumans and the Inhumans expanded colony. We would meet the new Sorcerer Supreme, the very non-humanoid Krogar, and so on. The Guardians of the Galaxy series was fantastic, and while it only ran about 62 issues plus 4 annuals, it was amazing in its vibrancy and its expansion of the galactic scope of the Marvel Universe. So there's a lot going on there with the history of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And ironically, the Guardians of the Galaxy's history is very rooted in a parallel alternate future version. So, as you warm up for the new film featuring this current incarnation, just know that there is something that comes before, very, very much before. And get excited about that too. It's great stuff. Thanks for joining me. I'm Troy David here at Flashback in Woodbridge, Virginia, and you've been learning about the Guardians of the Galaxy.